plants are more efficient at acquiring carbon than are fungi. Alright, this is apples and oranges. We're trying to compare plants' ability to acquire carbon with fungi's ability to acquire carbon. So A is almost saying that plants are more efficient at doing this than they are at acquiring fungi. That does make sense. So A is no good. Plants are more efficient at acquiring carbon than fungi. The same issue. Plants are more efficient than fungi at acquiring carbon. Alright, you're comparing plants and fungi and specifically their ability to acquire carbon. So C is correct. What about D and E? Plants more efficient than fungi at acquiring carbon in the form of blah blah blah. That doesn't make sense. E, plants acquire carbon more efficiently than fungi. Now E has the same problem that A and B have. Plants acquire carbon more efficiently than they acquire fungi. It would be clearer if they said plants acquire carbon more efficiently than fungi do. In that case, you would be comparing it correctly, but even so, it doesn't flow well into this in the form of carbon dioxide because that would describe fungi when really it should be describing carbon. So E is wrong for those two reasons. So we're left with C as the final answer. So what's going on here? We basically have an apples versus oranges question. Keyword more than. What are you comparing exactly? Are you comparing plants acquiring carbon versus fungi acquiring carbon? Or are you comparing plants acquiring carbon versus plants acquiring fungi? Because A and B are basically saying plants acquiring carbon is better than plants acquiring fungi, which doesn't make sense. What you're trying to say is you want to compare plants and fungi directly, and more specifically, you want to compare their ability to acquire carbon. And C does that perfectly by directly comparing plants and fungi and then mentioning their ability, right? Plants are more efficient than fungi at this particular ability and at acquiring carbon, comma, in the form of carbon dioxide. So carbon in the form of carbon dioxide makes sense. And that's why this flows properly to the next second half of the sentence. And it also properly compares apples with apples. And that's why answer choice C is correct. As a recap, we saw the keyword more than, so we paid close attention to what exactly we're comparing. And it turns out what we want to compare is the fungi and the plants directly, and then mention their ability to acquire carbon. And it turns out answer choice C is the only one that does that.